Hi, welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to discuss the summary of Nationalism in India, History, Chapter 2, Class 10 NCERT. This video is also a recap of the whole chapter, Nationalism in India, within 8 minutes, so make sure you watch till the end. Trust me, it will also be useful when you need a quick brush up of the chapter. The timeline contains almost all the important dates in the chapter and has been brought to you after a lot of homework. Also, the dates have been color coded to a certain extent to make it easier for you. Let us begin with 1859 Inland Emigration Act. Under this act, plantation workers were not allowed to leave the tea gardens without permission. However, they were rarely given such permission. Jump to 1909. Almost half a century later, a father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, released a book, Hind Swaraj, in which he stated that British rule in India was established and survived due to the cooperation of Indians. If Indians refused to cooperate, India would achieve its freedom or Swaraj. He returned from South Africa to India in January 1915. Later, he organized 3 satyagraha movements successfully. First, in the year 1917, against the oppressive plantation system in Champaran, Bihar. Second, in the same year 1917, for relaxation of revenue in Kheda, Gujarat. Third, in 1918, in support of cotton mill workers in Ahmedabad, Gujarat. Next year, in the month of February, Rowlatt Act was passed hurriedly in the Imperial Legislative Council despite the united opposition of Indian members. It gave the government enormous power to repress political activities and allow detention of political prisoners. In the meantime, Khilafat Committee was formed in Mumbai in March 1919 to defend the temporal powers of the Khalifa, the Ottoman Emperor and spiritual head of Islamic world, against the rumored harsh peace treaty that was going to be imposed on him as the aftermath of World War I. Another satyagraha was initiated on 6th April in 1919 against the Rowlatt Act. However, turn of events such as police firing upon peaceful procession on 10th April 1919 caused martial law to be imposed and General Dyer took command. And later, on 13th April 1919, the infamous Jallianwala Bagh incident took place, which killed lots of people. After seeing the violence spread, Gandhiji called off the movement. We will talk about this in detail in another video. On an unrelated note, the Indian Industrial Commercial Congress was formed in 1920, which will come into the picture later. Gandhiji realized a broad-based movement was to be launched to attain Swaraj. This could be done by uniting Hindus and Muslims, and to attract Muslims to the cause, Gandhiji picked up the Khilafat issue. Thus, he convinced other leaders of the Congress at the Calcutta Congress session in September 1920 to start a non-cooperation movement in support of both Khilafat and Swaraj. There were 2 very much varied opinions within the Congress whether to start the movement or not. It seemed like there was going to be no meeting point between both, but finally a compromise was worked out between them in Nagpur Congress session in December 1920. Meanwhile, council elections were scheduled to be held in 1920 November. Some wanted to support the movement, others were against boycotting council elections as a part of the movement, and they feared it might lead to popular violence. However, in January 1921, non-cooperation movement began. As a part of the movement, Indian flag was designed by Gandhiji, the tricolour with a chakra, in 1921. At Chauri Chaura, Gorakhpur, a peaceful demonstration turned into a violent clash with the police. A police station was set on fire and nearly 22 policemen died. This was the Chauri Chaura incident of 4th February 1922. Thus, to prevent further violence, it was decided to withdraw the movement in February 1922. In 1926, as an effect of Great Economic Depression, agricultural prices began to fall and collapsed in 1930. Meanwhile, in 1928, Simon Commission, that was a statutory commission, was a part of the new Tory government in Britain. This was set up in response to the nationalist movement in India. The commission's job was to look into the constitutional system in India and suggest changes. The problem was that the commission did not contain a single Indian member. It arrived in India in 1928 and was greeted with "Go back, Simon." In order to win over the revolution in India against the Simon Commission, in October 1929, Lord Irwin announced a vague offer of dominion status for India and proposed a round-table conference which the Congress rejected. Meanwhile, in 1927, the FICCI, or the Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industries, was set up. During the same time, HSRA, or the Hindustan Socialist Republican Army, was founded at a meeting in Firozshah Kota ground in Delhi by Bhagat Singh, Jatan Das and Ajay Ghosh. Since the non-cooperation movement, the Congress had been an openly Hindu party and Muslims felt alienated and the relations were worsening over time. It felt like they could be reconciled in 1927. However, in the All-Parties Conference held in 1928, all hopes were lost when M.R. Jaikar of Hindu Mahasabha strongly opposed reserved seats for Muslims in Central Assembly. In December 1929, Lahore Congress session was held under the presidency of Jawaharlal Nehru, who finalized the demand for Purna Swaraj, or complete freedom. And in addition to this, it was decided that 26 January 1930 would be celebrated as Independence Day. On 31st January 1930, Gandhiji sent a letter to Viceroy Irwin with 11 demands, which included general interest, specific demands of different classes from industrialists to peasants, and abolishing salt tax. The letter stated that if the demands were not fulfilled by 11th March, Congress would launch a civil disobedience campaign. Gandhiji started the Salt March all the way from Gandhiji's ashram in Sabarmati to Dandi, where he manufactured salt and violated the salt law on 6th April. In April 1930, Abdul Ghaffar Khan was arrested as the colonial government was worried about the revolution's development. And a month later, Mahatma Gandhi himself was arrested. And when people tried to oppose, they were brutally repressed. Thus, Gandhiji called off the movement and entered into a pact with Lord Irwin on 5th March 1931. According to the Gandhi-Irwin Pact, Gandhiji said yes to participate in a round-table conference to be conducted in London, and the British would release the political prisoners. But when Gandhiji went to London in December 1931, negotiations broke down and he returned disappointed, only to find that Jawaharlal Nehru and other leaders were arrested and the Congress was declared illegal. Gandhiji relaunched the civil disobedience movement, but hesitantly. It continued for a year before the movement lost momentum in 1934. In 1930, Ambedkar organized Dalits into depressed classes organization. Gandhiji and Ambedkar's views clashed at the second roundtable conference in London. Ambedkar asked for a separate electorate, and when the British accepted his demands, Gandhiji began to fast until death. This was because he believed a separate electorate for Dalits would slow down their integration into the society. Thus, Ambedkar finally had to give in, and this came to be known as the Pune Pact of September 1932, which gave the depressed classes, or later scheduled castes, reserved seats in provincial and legislative councils, but they had to be elected by the general electorate. Later, there were a series of movements that were conducted, such as the Quit India movement by Mahatma Gandhi on 9th August 1942 during World War II, demanding an end to British rule in India. Finally, on 15th August 1947, India got its freedom from the British. Make sure you like and subscribe and also share the video so that it could be beneficial to many other students out there like you. Thank you for watching the video.